Hi, this is Ohfor. Let's have fun with target spells. Right, so next up on the list of spell types, as we're walking through it here, is target spells. So what's a target spell? Target spell is a little bit simplified, but it's basically a shout spell targeted somewhere else. And just to demonstrate what I mean by that, we have here Shadowheart, and she has guidance. So guidance is a spell, if you've ever had Shadowheart in your party, you're probably very familiar with, because I certainly use it all the time in dialogue checks and whatever, get a little bit of a boost from guidance, and the reason we use that is because it costs an action for Shadowheart, so she can cast it pretty much whenever she wants. And if we call up guidance here, we'll see that right now it still very much looks like a shout spell. It has a little radius here of, I think, 1.5 meters or something like that. We can look at that. And then she can select a target, which can be herself. Let's try that. And she now has guidance for 10 turns. She's concentrating on it. So let's cancel that. But you can also cast it on Karlach here. And we'll notice the preview shows, because the radius is just 1.5 meters, she's going to have to move to make it happen. But there we go. Now Karlach has the guidance buff. And we can cancel that again. So that is, in essence, a very simple target spell. Let's see what else she has. That could be that. So we have Disguise Self, which is, I think when we did the boost, when we did the what's it called, the shout, then this can only ever target herself. Yeah, so that's a shout spell. So we don't really care about that. Healing Word. So that is a target spell, and we can see the radius is quite big here. I think it's 18 meters, which is probably, somebody's going to laugh, but maybe 40 feet. Whatever. It's a target spell and allows her to cast Healing Word on Karlach and to heal her, right? Then we have Guiding Bolt. Now, Guiding Bolt, intuitively you might think that's a target spell as well, but it really isn't. And the way you can, so it's a projectile spell, and I'll cover those in one of the next videos. And the way we can see that is that there's a little trajectory displayed for the spell. So there has to be a line that connects the caster with the target for it to work. Otherwise you'll get the path not clear or path obstructed. I forget what the game tells you. So that's not a target spell. That's a projectile spell. Okay. We have Shield of Faith. Again, a target spell, has an 18-meter radius, and we can use that. Cast it on Karlach. Okay. Now, what may not be so obvious is that we have other target spells that we use all the time that you may not be aware of. But main hand attack is exactly the same. This is a target spell. And so spells, in the sense of the game engine, is not just magical things you throw at people. It's a regular weapon attack. If I go here, I'm basically executing main hand attack on Karlach. Probably miss. Yeah, there we go. But that's a target spell. Okay. Shadowheart also has Firebolt, and again we see the trajectory come up, so this is not a target spell, and there's no way. I mean, she barely hits with this one anyway, as it is. So yeah, why don't we take a look at what we can do with target spells. So let's get into our stats editor, and as usual I'll take a look at the share project, spell data, and target. And here we go. And the very first thing that pops up, which is probably the very first target spell that Larian put in the game, weapon attack, main hand attack. Alright, why don't we take a look at that? Because that will give us a good idea of how these spells are structured. So we scroll out a bit. Now the first thing we see under spell properties, what does the spell actually do? So this is no different than we learned with shout spells. It apparently, oh wow, it does a lot of things here. But it deals, so on the ground it deals damage with main melee weapon and main melee weapon damage type. So it does the damage of the main melee weapon. That's a sort of functor that it will execute and figure out what's the damage on the main weapon and what's the damage type. And then it does the same with offhand. So there's a lot going on here, and I don't actually think we should unpack all of it because there's not a lot of value to that. The target radius, however, this becomes a little bit easier. So here it's using a magic number for melee main weapon range, and I guess that's because there's likely a difference in the range and reach of weapons. I'm guessing polearms have a longer reach than a dagger. That would make sense anyway to me. And we can see this is used mostly here in all these weapon attacks, except for unarmed attack, which is set to 1.5 meters. So you can do an unarmed attack 1.5 meters from you without moving. Okay, let's see what else we can learn. So the spell roll. So it does an attack and attack type melee weapon attack, and then it also does the offhand. So if you're wearing offhand weapons as part of the main weapon attack, you can also do, this can be targeted on and off, but you can do an attack with your offhand weapon as well. So that's what this is taking care of. And on spell success, we deal damage, and so I don't think we've talked about the max function yet. So, but basically it says we're going to deal damage, and we're going to take the highest number of either one or the main melee weapon damage. So that means you can essentially never do 0 damage. You will always do a minimum of 1 damage if the attack lands. Okay, then it executes the weapon functors. That's advanced. Yeah, we'll cover that at another time. But basically, weapons can have special effects like putting targets on fire or whatever. And that's what's taken care of basically here. So once it's done that, it basically does the same thing for the offhand and executes the weapon functors for the offhand. Who can you target with your main attack? Well, you cannot target yourself, so there's no suicides here or anything. You can't just whatever. There are actually spells that do that, but that's a different story. And not dead, so it makes no sense to weapon attack dead targets. And the rest, I don't think we'll actually be covering much of that in this video, because now we are into the basics that every spell has: icon, display name, description. That's all fine. Tooltips, so the tooltips again will be a repeat of what we've already seen. We don't care about that. Prepare sound, texts, whatever, none of this is interesting. Cycle conditions. Okay, yeah, that might be a little bit interesting. So cycle conditions is basically, so who can be targeted by that? So we already know that it had to be, someone not dead. And then it also says it has to be an enemy. Okay. To use main hand attack, you spend 1 action point. And if you're dual wielding, you also spend your bonus action point to do the offhand attack. Spell animations and dual wield spell animations I'll gracefully ignore. Intent is damage. Required weapon, hang on. required weapon type melee. So to do main hand attack, you need to have a melee weapon equipped, which is fine. And spell flag, so it's attack, it's melee, it's harmful, and it can be dual wielded. What else do we have here? Hit animation type, aggressive. So this has something to do with how does the target respond or react, what animations are playing, and whatever. If the target is hit by your spell, and a cast effect, some spell sounds, etc. Okay, so that is main hand attack. Let's see what else we have. Down here, the divine smites, searing, sneak attack. So sneak attack, that's a little bit interesting. But let's take a little bit of a closer look at that. So we know sneak attack, that can happen once per turn. Okay. And most of it stays the same. It does require you wielding finesse weapons. So basically saying wielding finesse weapon in specific hand, and has action resource sneak attack charge. Now sneak attack charge is interesting because that is a resource the same way a spell slot and a bonus action and an action is. It's just called sneak attack charge. You have one of these, as far as I'm aware, and it recharges every turn. It's never shown in the UI, it's just there. It's kind of like you also have one reaction per turn. That's also an action resource. So this is how the game keeps track of the fact, can you sneak attack this round? Well, you can if you have sneak attack charge resources available. Okay, I think that's about the only special thing about the sneak attack. And then we can see when sneak attack executes, it deals damage. It deals you main melee weapon damage plus a level map value for sneak attack. So we can go look that up if we really wanted to. We've covered level maps. Actually, let's just do that. Shared. And then level maps. And then we should be able to find a sneak attack. There we go. So if you're rogue, let's just go back here, see what it was doing. So it's doing main melee weapon damage plus a level map value from sneak attack. Okay. So if you level 1, it does an extra 1d6 damage. If you level 3, it does an extra 2d6. If you level 3 or above, I should say, right? 1 and above, 3 and above. And then at level 5, it increases to 3d6. Level 7, 4d6, 5d6, etc. And it ends up doing an additional 6d6 damage if you level 11 or above as rogue. Right? It's not your character level, it's your rogue level. Okay. And then there's a few conditions for the sneak attack. So for the target, so character and not self and not dead, these are still the same. And then one of the following has to be true. You either have to have advantage. So if you're coming from a position of advantage, you can do a sneak attack. Or if there's an ally within range. So if there's an ally close to your target, you can do the sneak attack, presumably because the ally is distracting or whatever. You cannot have disadvantage, and you cannot be targeted inanimate. There's a lot to unpack here. These are all the conditions basically that go into when is a sneak attack possible. Okay, and the rest is pretty much the same. So we won't go into that. It's not that different from what we just covered. Okay. So these are all the, you can also see it here, the weapon attacks. And then if we go down through this list, weapon attacks target, and so slash. So these are, so slash is the bleed, I believe. Let's see if we have a character that has slash, maybe. Yeah, I think this is slash. And again, it's a target spell. So the cell needs to move for it. And it will, if it hits. Oh wow, it hit. Sorry, Shadowheart. Will inflict bleeding on the target. Okay, I'm getting distracted here. Let's just get back here. So slash, concussive smash, disarming strike. So disarming strike is a, what do they call them? Weapon, something fighters does, maneuvers, something. Anyway, once per short rest, we can do a disarming strike. And let's see if we can find something interesting here. So, in essence, if the target fails an ability strength saving throw against the caster's DC +2. So if they fail that, they're gonna get apply status disarm 100, and they're going to get hit by some damage. So deal damage, the improvised weapon damage, and then the maximum of either the caster's dexterity modifier or strength modifier. And then the weapon functions for main hand are gonna get executed. Okay. And in order to do a disarming strike on someone, the target needs to be a character. So that's any kind of player, not an inanimate object, and cannot be self. And the target must have a weapon in main hand, which makes sense. Otherwise, what would you be disarming? And then the last thing, there's going to be a resource in play here somewhere. Let's just find that. There we go. So it's costing an action point to use disarming strike. That is like any other attack. However, if you hit, it also costs 1 superiority die. So that's another. So this is not a hidden resource. If you're a fighter and you have this this subclass, I think it is, then you get something called superiority dice, and you get a few of them each time you level up, or you get 1 every time you level up, I think. And you can use those to do these special attacks: disarming attack, push attack. I forget what else is in there. Okay, so enough about weapon attacks and whatever. Let's see what else we have down here. Dig, a little bit of an interesting one. Dark vision, enhance ability, fly, guidance. So guidance is the one we looked at. Actually, why don't we make our own version of guidance? We need to cook up something of our own here. So guidance is as good as one as any. So let's go to spell data, target, and then we'll do tut guidance, and I'm just going to steal that. So tut guidance, right? And it applies status guidance 100. 100 and for 10 turns. So the 100 we talked about, just always have it like that. Status is guidance. We could take a look at what that does. We would need to go to here and find guidance. So I'm in the status data boost table, and see if we can find guidance. We can. So guidance, when you have that status applied, You will gain a 1d4 bonus to ability checks. It's a divination spell. I don't think there's a lot going on with guidance. It's a very simple kind of spell. It has a sound. It's fine. We don't care about that. Let's get to the good stuff. So what does guidance actually do? Well, it gives us a roll bonus of skill checks of 1d4, and then it gives us a roll bonus of raw ability of 1d4. So what does raw ability mean? So that's when you do a strength check or a charisma check and so on and so forth. So you get a 1d4 bonus to each of them, and that's essentially what guidance does. Okay, so we go back to our own spell. I can see this one is messing with me. There we go. So what we can do is, why don't we also, to make our lives a little bit easier doing testing, we'll just do it for 2 turns. Okay, so now we have guidance for 2 turns, and everything else for now, so it costs an action point, that's also fine. This means we can cast it as much as we want. And there's no conditions, so we can basically target anyone as far as I can tell. And okay, so now we have that. Now for our own guidance, I want to set it to 18 meters. So as we see, the default guidance, oh okay, now it wants me to save. The default guidance has a very short radius, which means that if I want to cast guidance, I need to move over to Karlak. Now we want that to be different. So we'll set the radius to 18. This is no different than what we did for the shout spell. And then we just need to unlock our own version of guidance, actually just to avoid confusion. Let's find the name and give it a name that we can recognize. So this is tutorial guidance. Okay, and then we save that. Then we go in game. And then we add debug spell to guidance. So target to guidance comes up. There we go. So now Shadowheart has our tutorial guidance, and as we can see now we have our own radius where we can cast guidance at a long distance, and for some odd reason I got it for 10 turns. I was not expecting that. Let's just see what I overlooked. That is interesting. Oh, I changed the tooltip. So I told the game, in the tooltip, definitely say it's only for 2 turns, but in reality, it is not. So let's find. So here we have the actual effect of the spell. Okay. So this is where it gets a little bit confusing, because we have so many different tooltips that state what's happening with the spell, and then the reality of it could be different. Okay. So now let's just see that this works as we expect. So now we cast guidance again, and now we can see 2 turns remaining on guidance. So this is definitely our version, and we also see in the combat log that tutorial guidance was cast, and it gives guidance for 2 turns. Okay, so far so good. So what's left now is just a key ingredient, which would be your imagination, because we can pretty much do anything that we could with a shout spell. So, for instance, guidance, we can say, why don't we change it, the number of targets, so we can target up to 4 people with guidance all at once. And what else? Let's see. Why don't we, just for the heck of it, do ground create surface for 2 meters for 2 turns water. This doesn't make any kind of sense, but viewers familiar with my channel will know that that's not really what we're all about. We're just messing about here. So now we can target up to 4 people, and we apply guidance on the people we target, and we create a surface of water under them. For what reason, you ask? I have no idea. But whatever. It's just to show that we can do pretty much whatever we want here. And if we go in now to check multi-targeting, we are going to need another character. I'll press F11, and then I'll do CC start new. This is the command to start a new character, and I'll just basically take default. So now we have a default tab as well, and the Dream Companion. Okay, so we go back to Shadowheart, and now tutorial guidance. Target must be an ally. Oh, so a new character is not tagged an ally. I think that's a bug because they're part of the party, but whatever. We can work with that. So we go back here. So we basically say any character can get our guidance, and I think that's the only place we need to deal with that. Yeah. So we save that. And we go back in game. And then tutorial guidance on all of us. Go. And here we go. Guidance for the masses, and it created a puddle of water under each target. Doesn't make sense, it doesn't have to, we're just having fun here. And I think that's pretty much it. Target spells, shout spells, it's all the same. They will work the same. And yeah, add a healthy dose of imagination, create your own spells, mix and match, have fun modding.